Today, working on Mack. Phase 2 upgrade to get the larger engine installed. So the Phase 2 upgrade is to put one of these 3.2 liter engines into my 911. It's currently running a 912 engine. So in order to run the dry sump oil system, you need to have these oil lines. These run from the back of the car. This is in like the right rear wheel well, and it takes oil, flows it all the way up to the front in the front fender, and it cools the oil, and then it sends it back to the engine over there. So the problem I'm having today, and this happens with a lot of 911s, this part of the tube, these are brass, has been crushed. So can it be fixed? I'm not sure, but stay tuned to find out.
Garage time.
Here's where those oil lines go, by the way. They go right here. That's one of the mounting tabs. That's one of the other mounting tabs. And then this is the lifting point. So it's right next to where people commonly lift these cars up on a lift or even a jack. And it's so close to this edge where the pinch weld is that either it slips off the jack or someone's just not careful when they're placing the pads. And that's what crushes those. Sometimes it's an accident, sometimes it's just negligence. But either way, on a car this old, chances of it being crushed is pretty high. This is probably one of the most difficult things to fix on a 911. This piece, by the way, is a thermostat. And just like a water-cooled car, it prevents flow to the front if the temperatures are below, like I think it's 180 for this one. So the oil will flow after 180, and then, you know, it comes out to the end, gets returned. This is pretty low pressure stuff because you're just returning oil to the tank. So these lines are just brass. It's a soft material. Don't think it is under a lot of stress. So I'm going to try to repair the bent line. And I looked at different ways to do it. Pelican Parts has a whole multi-page forum on how to, you know, pressurize the tube and try to pop these dents out. So that's going to be plan A. So I've already soaked these fittings in this Kroll oil. This is a penetrating oil, and it's just going to loosen it up a little bit. I'm also going to apply a little bit of heat to this because these threads are aluminum and things are easy to strip. So this has probably never come off before in its 40+ year life. So we'll be kind to it. Someone wasn't very kind to this surface. I don't know why, but there's big plier marks on there. That's the relief spring for the thermostat. So this will have to be inspected and cleaned. But in order to pressurize the line, I need to remove it from the thermostat. You can call me crazy, but I literally have this thing, you know, clamped to the table, protecting the surfaces with some sacrificial wood and aluminum. But this piece is literally hanging here off the ceiling. These nuts are steel. I have a magnet here, but the tubes are not. So we need to heat up the nut without desoldering or debrazing it from the tube. So kind of a delicate balance there. I'm going to go with my torch, but do it quick. Okay, I'm gonna go a little more heat. That was, it's pretty tight. Yeah, they're stuck on there. This rag is soaked in water, so I'm trying to keep the copper or the brass cool while getting this as hot as possible. So while this one's cooling down, I'm gonna load it up with some of the penetrating oil. And by the way, I did blow these lines out as best as I could from getting any oil residue off the inside. I don't see any smoke or anything coming out of the end, so I don't think we're gonna cause it to blow up, but you never know. You definitely gotta be careful when working with the torch. Just working on the lower one now. If we can't get this off with a few heat cycles, we may have to cut the nuts off, open it up with a chisel, but obviously that means you need to get replacement fittings, which is no fun either. So we'll give it a couple tries. I'm not going to over torque it. And then while it's hot, I'm putting in more Kroil. And I'm just gonna let this cool down a little bit. Part of the problem is the aluminum is so warm that the aluminum is expanding, and that actually can make it worse. So I'm gonna let everything cool down. Hopefully it's been shocked back and forth a few times, that once it's cold, I'll try to release it, see what happens. If you're curious how hot it is, right there it's 230. 210, 220. So that's a good place to stop. When this thing is in the car and operating, it could get to 220 pretty quick. So let's stop there. Everything can cool down on its own. I don't want to shock it with water or anything. And while it's cooling down, I have this impact hammer, and I'm just going to vibrate on one side really light, just to get some vibration in there and maybe break it loose. Get my ears on. That marked up the nut just a tiny bit, but not bad. It's a really broad point on that. Oh, that side's loose. That was actually, that came off, that loosened up pretty easily. So because the threads are so soft, you want to keep it lubricated. And we just, you know, kind of go both ways a little bit. Get that penetrating oil to work in there. You can feel it loosening up once the oil's in there. It's no longer smoking, which is better. Done. Of course, that's the one that's not dented, so hopefully we can get this one off now. I don't want to ding up the threads, so I'm going to put another hose on there. Okay. That's better than damaging the threads. I'll just leave it on there. This is the hose that goes to the front oil cooler, so just keep it there. It won't hurt anything. And now we pull. Oh yeah. Same thing, keep it lubed up. Bam, it's off. I'm not sure what the trick is on that other than just keep, you know, cycling it with heat. You know, one of the problems is once you get the initial heat in it, the aluminum soaks it up. And now you have the heated aluminum fighting against. The aluminum will expand more than the steel. So when I was trying to loosen it, I could feel it getting tighter. And I think that's because the aluminum was expanding. So you just kind of have to let it cool down, keep putting the oil in it, and you know, keep going after it. I don't know if the vibration helped or not, but end of the day, we got it off. So we'll put this aside. So here's the crush section right here. You can almost see the jack pad marks on this guy. It's a real sharp indentation there. This could restrict the flow of oil. In fact, I'm pretty sure it does. Because if you look at it from the side profile, it is about half of the diameter that it used to be. So we're going to try to expand that out to be, basically it doesn't really matter what it looks like, just as long as it can flow oil. I've gone to the store and got some fittings to basically cap this off. That's a plug there capping it off. This is a little bicycle valve, Schrader valve or whatever you want to call it. So this is one way, you know, we'll put air in it like we do a tire, but we got to drill and tap a hole on the end of this plug so that it'll pump it up. And as luck would have it, I cannot find the right tap. This I think is 8th NPT. Fortunately, let's hope Home Depot has it because that's all that's open right now. Nope. Yeah, I finally got that little sucker. Most hardware stores or anything here in Huntington Beach doesn't have these anymore. So I got it from my favorite auto parts store, Ace Auto Parts, Huntington Beach. It's a very mom and pop type place and you know, they know what's up. Okay, back to where we left off. Just to get this thing perpendicular, I start this by hand. And then once it's in there, I just release it, and then we use a tap handle for the rest of the way. Let's get a little piece of tape here. Okay, nice. And then, you know, it does poke through the inside. We'll blow some of that tapping material out of there. We don't want that in our oil lines. I wasn't smart when I went to the hose store because I forgot that one end is male and the other one's female. And so I got a setup for female on both sides, which means now I got to use this flex hose here. So now it's female to female and this all works. The other side is capped off. None of this stuff is tight, so let me tighten that up. And you gotta forgive me for not having the right wrenches. I just don't have anything this big. Well, I might have something that big, but we're just getting it sort of tight. It's okay if it leaks a little bit. It's just air. Yeah, it's holding air. So this is already at, that's 86 pounds. So the air pressure alone is not enough to take these dents out. So now it's time to put some heat on it, get the hammer and dolly ready, and try to, for instance, you know, squeeze this and pull it this way. That's the idea. Here we go. You know, that's hotter than 200. So I'm gonna turn the torch off and just try a little hammer and dolly on it. Still pretty firm. I think we'll try a little more heat. Okay, that's starting to come out. Try this big daddy here. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it's seriously moving. Okay, I think that's a wrap. Here's the side view of the tube. It's a little bit kinked right there, but I think that's the way it was from the factory probably. But the thickness here of the tube is pretty consistent, you know, all the way around. Not too bad. Just a little lumpy, but it's really not that bad. And then here's the main damage. That's where one of the jack pads was right there. It's not too bad. Over here, it's got some scratches and stuff in it, but hopefully it won't leak. We'll pump some air in it here in a second, but I think we're back to good flow. Still holding, you know, 80 pounds of pressure, so that's good. Well, we got lucky again. Next step on this is to just scuff it up, get it ready for paint. It gets a coating of black paint on it. And the other line doesn't need any work. So we are ready to, like I said, get these back in the car. I'm not sure if these are gonna go in Benji's car or my car, but either way, they're one step closer. I don't have time to paint right now, but let me show you something really cool. A lot of my time this week was taken by these bumpers. Are now yellow, more Velveeta for the mac and cheese mobile. There's the two corners over there hanging to dry. Woohoo!